Hello everyone, Richard here again. In a previous video I showed you how to use the Raspberry Pi 3 Model B Plus as an access point. Now I've been asked since I made that video, how do you do it as a headless installation? Okay, headless installation means that you don't use a mouse, a keyboard, or a monitor connected to the Raspberry Pi. I'm going to show you how to do that. It's all going to be command line, and I'm going to be using a USB thumb drive only in the Raspberry Pi. The rest is going to be done remotely. It's pretty cool, and actually I find that it was easier to do it this way than the other way I showed. One more thing too, if you got comments, suggestions, or questions, definitely put them in the comments section below. I watch and look at them regularly and respond to them regularly, and a lot of my videos come out of the questions and the suggestions that I get down there. Also as well, in the video description below, I will put links to all the hardware that I use in this video for the Raspberry Pi 3. Here's all the hardware I'm going to be using in this video. I'm going to be using the Raspberry Pi 3 Model B Plus, and I'll put links for all the stuff in the video description below. I'm going to be using a 16 gigabyte USB 3 thumb drive. I can't recommend using any less than USB 3. USB 2 is too slow. The memory in those sticks are just too slow for this, and I don't recommend it because it takes forever to use them. So USB 3 at the minimum. This is a 16 gig monster drive. I know it's hard to get a 16 gig drive at this point, thumb drive, so I'm going to put a link to the 32 gig PNY in the video description below. You can get that at Amazon or eBay for under 10 bucks, no problem at all, every day. I'm going to be using the North Pata power supply, which is, I can't recommend highly enough. It works great. It's a 3 amp power supply, and I've never had a power problem with the Raspberry Pi using it. Again, in the video description below. And if you don't want to use a thumb drive, a micro SD memory card in the Raspberry Pi will do just fine. Now, if you've never booted your Raspberry Pi from a USB device, I'll put a card up here showing you how to configure your Raspberry Pi 3 to boot from a USB device, and all you have to really do there is follow that video, at least the first part of that video where I show you how to boot from a USB hard drive, and it'll work the same for a USB thumb drive. Do that, come back to this video, and then you'll be able to boot from a USB thumb drive and do this properly. And all we're going to be doing and using in this video really is the Raspberry Pi 3, USB 3 16 gig thumb drive, and power supply. And of course, we're going to need a network cable, and that network cable is going to plug into your Raspberry Pi, and the other side of that network cable is going to go into your router, and that will plug into the LAN ports on your router. Not your WAN port, but the LAN ports. I'm assuming that your router is connected to the internet. It should be, and all you need to do is connect your Raspberry Pi as such to your router in the LAN ports, and you'll be off to the races. So yeah, pretty neat. No keyboard, no mouse, no monitor. Let's do it. So let's get at it. First, we're going to install the USB thumb drive into my computer. Just plug it in. You know, it should pop up by itself. We'll see what happens. If not, just open up your file browser. There we go. And it wants to format it because it's been in the Raspberry before, and it's been imaged to the Raspbian image. So it's seeing that ext4 partition and doesn't know how to handle it. So hit cancel here on this. You may have a USB thumb drive that's already formatted, so don't worry about this step. But if you don't have it, I suggest strongly to go get the SD card formatter from sdcard.org. So I'll show you that. And just go to sdcard.org, go to the downloads section, and then download the SD memory card formatter from them. Really useful tool, really handy, really easy to install. So once you install it, you'll have this link. I'm just going to format it here quickly. Hit the format. You can use Windows if you wish as well, but this is just so much easier. The boot drive E is where we want to go. The nice thing about this is it blanks out the whole drive at one time. So let's do that. And you can see now I only have one boot drive, and hit OK here, and it's a 16 gigger. So as you can see here, again, the 32 will work just fine. Put the links in the video description for you. And So now we have a blank drive. We're ready to go on that. Next thing we're going to need an image to put on that drive for the Raspberry. So let's go back here. And all you got to do is Google Raspbian, and you'll see download Raspbian for Raspberry Pi. Click on that link. And this is the beauty of this, is that we're going to be using the smallest version of this, which is this one here, the Raspbian Stretch Lite. And it is a command line only version of this. This is all we need for this project. So really nice because it's really small. Even the 16 gig thumb drive is probably about 2.5 times too big a memory storage space for this actual project, but who cares? Works great. A 16 gigger is really cheap. A 32 gig PNY, again in the video description below, is about $9 or $8 on Amazon and eBay all day long. So you choose what you want to run it on. You can run it on a micro SD memory card as well. So here we're just going to click to download the zip file and click it. It comes up, save it where you would like to save it. Hit OK. And I'm going to choose my Raspberry Pi folder, and I'm going to put it under Raspbian here. And you can see that I already have it, so just download it. And it's 1.7 gigs, so instead of just going through that process, I'm just going to, actually no, it's 359 kilobytes. Sorry, 359,000 kilobytes, so about 0.3 gigs. So download it to wherever you want to download it, and I'm not going to do that. Just hit save and remember where you kept it. And then we're going to have to extract that and actually turn it into an image. And what I use for that is something called Balena. So I'm just going to close that off. I'm going to assume you've downloaded this. The next piece of software you're going to need is something called Balena. And I'm going to click on it. So Google B-A-L-E-N-A, and okay, fine, whatever, cool, got it. Click on that. And we're going to download their image program. So we're going to go here to, where is it? And here, oops. Yeah, Balena Etcher. That's what we're looking for. So click on Etcher. I guess I could have Googled Balena Etcher too. And then download for Windows x64. This is an image creating software. Really, really handy for images for the Raspberry Pi. Suggest that you go get it. Download it. So I'm on an x64 Windows platform, so it'll work for me. Save the file. Of course, I've already done this, so I don't need to do it again. But you save it where you want. You can see here I already have it saved. So save it. It's a fairly small file, I think. Let me see how big it is here. Yeah, 75 megabytes. So just download it and then install it, okay? I'm not going to go through the download installation process. You know how to download, I'm sure, and I'm sure you know how to double-click on a file and install it. Just go through all the defaults. It'll work for you, okay? So let's go to the Etcher program that I have on my desktop. It'll create a link for you when you install it as well. So double-click on that, and we're going to use this to image the thumb drive with the Raspbian Stretch Lite image, okay? So once it comes up, there it is. And we're going to select an image, so click on Select Image. Now, I've got mine unzipped. I just find that it's a little faster to unzip them first and then etch them or image them onto the thumb drive, but it's up to you. You could actually not unzip them and go straight from the zip file. The Etcher program will handle it in the zip format as well. So I'm just going to go with the Lite here and do it. So I'm going to hit open, and it says, hey, I'm going to use your monster USB digital device, and that's fine. If you want to change it or you're not sure, again, make sure that you know where you're actually imaging this to, because it will blank out that drive. So if you're imaging to the wrong drive, you're going to damage something. So make sure you're doing it to the right drive. I am. Mine is the E drive. You want to check, just go back to your file manager, and you can see here that boot and the USB thumb drive is the E drive. So just going to hit continue here and then hit flash. You get this, say yes, and then we go through the process of flashing the drive. Once it's done, it'll validate the image on the drive to make sure that everything went right, and you should get an OK when it's finished. and after it's finished, I'll pick it up there. We'll go from there. So after the flash program finishes its imaging to that USB thumb drive, just unplug it from your computer, and then we're going to plug it back in again. The reason we're doing that is because the program, the Balena flat etcher, will actually unmount the drive when it's done. So basically makes it ready to pull out of your machine and plug into your Raspberry Pi. So here I plugged it back in, and it's asking, Windows is asking me to format it. Of course, we don't want to do that, so we're going to hit cancel here. And then we're going to go to the file manager. And what we need to do, since we're doing a headless install, we're going to have to remote into the Raspberry Pi. But by default, the Raspberry Pi is pretty tight when it's first installed, when you put an image on it. And by tight, I mean that SSH, which is how we're going to connect into the Raspberry Pi, is turned off. So what we need to do is turn the SSH protocol or server on the Raspberry Pi, and we do that on the actual drive prior to plugging the USB thumb drive into the Raspberry Pi. Pretty neat trick, okay? So I'll show you how to do that. Okay, so we're going to go to the boot drive, which is the main drive on that USB thumb drive. And in the file window over here, just right-click New, and we're going to create a new text document. And this text document, we're just going to call it SSH. That's it. Just SSH, okay? All lowercase, just like that. One more step in doing that is to go over here to View and change from what the default is, which is what you see here, to File Name Extensions, okay? So that will show us file name extensions. And what you want to do is go back to the SSH program. Now you can see that it actually is an ssh.txt file, and we want to rename it. And what we want to do is take the txt off of it and the period at the end. So all it says is just SSH. So hit that, and it warns you if you change the file name extension, it might become unusable. Are you sure you want to change it? And we're going to say yes. So do that. So what we just did is equivalent to something called touch when you're in Linux. We've actually created an empty file called just SSH on the root directory of your boot drive. Now, if you want to turn on SSH on your Raspberry Pi anytime that you're doing a headless install, this is the way to do it. Just do this, and every time you boot your Raspberry Pi from your new image, it will turn on SSH. We need that because, like I said, we're doing this without a monitor, without a keyboard on the Raspberry Pi. So at this point, what we're going to do is unmount the actual thumb drive because we're done with it. So just right-click it here and choose Eject. And then it says it's safe to remove the hardware. We're going to remove it. I'm going to plug it into my Raspberry Pi here, and I'll show you that I've got the Raspberry Pi here with my network cable going to the router, the thumb drive only, no other things in the USB ports. Isn't that neat? No keyboard, no mouse, and of course we're going to have power, and that's it. So we're ready to go with that, but before we do that, we got to go get a little bit more software, two more things. So we're going to boot the Raspberry Pi up now, but it's not, like I said, it doesn't have a monitor, or a keyboard, or a mouse. So we don't know what the IP address of that Raspberry Pi is going to be. So let's go get that, a tool to do that. So go back to your browser and then Google Angry IP. Okay, so just type in Angry space IP and search, and this is what you're going to get. So I'm going to click here, Angry IP Scanner, download for Windows or Mac. And what you want is the legacy program. You don't want these. These are all big installation programs. You don't need them. All you need is ipscan.exe. So download that by clicking on ipscan.exe, and your download will start after this clock here, which is probably advertising based. Anyways, here you hit. It says ipscan221.exe. That's what you want. Save the file someplace you want it to go. In my case, I'll put it in the Raspberry directory. Keep everything in the same place, Raspberry Pi. There we go. And I'll just put it there. And remember where you kept it. That's key. So it runs by itself. So all you need to do is go to your file manager, go to wherever you put it. And I put it under downloads. Raspberry Pi, and there it is, ipscan221exe. So what we're going to do is double click that. And the reason we're running this program, and I'll blast it up here, is to actually find out what IP addresses in your current IP range are active. And the way, again, like I said, because we don't have any monitor on the Raspberry Pi, we need to find out what its IP address is, and this is how you do it, okay? So first thing you're going to do here is find out what your current IP range is, and I'll show you how to do that. Just right-click your network connection, whether it's Wi-Fi or, in my case, connected to a wire. So just right-click it, choose Open Network and Internet Settings. And here we're going to go to Network and Sharing Center. And under Change Adapter Settings, go there. And whatever way you're connected, whether it's Wi-Fi or Ethernet, in my case it's Ethernet, it could be Wi-Fi, doesn't matter. Just right-click whatever connection is active and choose Status. And then after that, choose Details. And under Details, you'll see that you have a bunch of information. But what matters is the IP address. You can see here that the default gateway is 192.168.0.1 in my case. Now, if yours is something different, like 1.1 or 2.1 or 3.1, okay, that just changes a little bit of the information that we're going to put in. But in my case, it's 192.168.0.1. Okay, so that's the gateway is the starting IP address. That's all you need to know. The ending IP address will be the same number ending with 255. So why does that matter? Because we need to scan the network to see where the Raspberry Pi ends up after it gets turned on. Now, we haven't turned on the Raspberry Pi yet because we don't want to. Right at this point, we're going to scan I'm going to scan my network. You scan yours, and we'll see what IP addresses are actually active. Okay, so let's go back to the Angry IP, and here we're going to put in the number we just found out, which is 192.168.0. So 0 will be fine, and over here, and it's going to be .1. So here we're just going to put 1. So 192.168.0.1. Again, if you have 1.1, then just put a 1 here, or 2.1, or whatever you have, put it here, right? Match what your default gateway is. And then over here, again, match what your default gateway is again. And at the end, just put in 255, and then click on the Start button, okay? And that will give you that'll scan your port, your IP addresses on your range. So here it is happening, and let it go through. It takes a little bit. You see the progress bar down there, and you can see that it found the gateway at the very top, and it's still scanning. So be a little patient. I'll be a little patient. Okay, and when it's done, it'll give you a actual display of what it found. So we'll wait here. It's coming. Okay, there we go. So IP scanning finished. It's found IP scans 255 IP addresses. That's everything on my network. It said alive host 3. So I found 3 things alive on there. So for one, it's the gateway. That's my router, 192.168.0.1. And if we scroll down, okay, I'll hit OK on that. If we scroll down, you'll see a list of others. In this case, my desktop, which is it would be my this computer right here. And if you look further down, there must be something else alive in here. Let's see what else. 0.220. That's another device on my network. So again, we know there's 3, okay? So now we've got the Raspberry Pi with our image, right? SSH file on the drive, on the USB thumb drive, like I showed you, put that in there. Ready to be powered up. So let's just power it up. And there it is powering up. See the light going off here. And we'll let it boot, and it should boot here in a second. Give it about a minute or two. You can see that the activity light going there. Again, if you want to hook up a monitor to it, you can, but you don't need to. This is going to go, no problem here. So just let it boot. Again, if you've never booted off a USB thumb drive, you need to set the Raspberry to do so. I put a card up earlier on showing you how to, to a link on a video where I show how to boot off a USB hard drive. The same procedure is for the thumb drive. You only need to do it once. Then the Raspberry always goes looking for a thumb drive to boot from as an alternative device to a micro SD card. So at this point, I'm going to say that more or less, I don't see any activity there on that actual light at this point. Let's see if I can show it to you. I don't know if you can see it. Anyways, hard to do. It's sitting there waiting. I'm going to assume that it's booted. So, and again, I'm going to assume that you've plugged it into your network. So here we're just going to do the same scan again. All right, I give this a couple of minutes before you hit the second yes to this. The Raspberry Pi has to, boot the image, has to resize it, and then go back to the prompt. So at this point, I'm just going to hit yes. I think I've given it enough time, so I'm going to hit yes here. And it'll scan through all the IP addresses again, only this time it should find the Raspberry Pi IP address, and we'll know because at the end, the summary, instead of having 3 IP addresses like I had before, I should have 4. So let's see what happens. And I do, look at, there's another one right there, 84. I'll wait for that to all come up. Yeah, now I have 4 instead of 3. And the new one, as I can see, I hit OK here, is the 84. Now, you take a look at your list. You can write them down before you do the second scan to find out which the new one is. But in my case, the new one is the 84, 192.168.0.84. So I'm just going to minimize this. We're going to get the last piece of software we need right now to make this all work. And the last piece of software, let's close this off, is something called PuTTY. It is what they call an SSH client. So just type in PuTTY into a Google search. And it should come up with PuTTY right off the bat. It's the most common IP address, SSH client going. Okay, there we go. PuTTY came up. Then it's free SSH and Telnet client for Windows. Let's go to that link, and it says you can download PuTTY here. Click on that, and then install your the 64-bit version. Don't bother with 32. That's old. The new one is this one. So click it, download it, save it, and install it. I'll go through the process here. Put it on. I think I put it on downloads already. I've already done this, of course. And then, like I said, I don't need to go through the installation program. Just double-click the file you've downloaded. Go through all the defaults and install it. After it's installed, you'll have it down here on your Windows icon, and scroll down to the P's. And you'll see a PuTTY 64-bit. And then here, just open up PuTTY, this one here. Now, again, we know that it's in my case, Angry IP's given me the IP address of my Raspberry as being 192.168.0.84 because it wasn't there prior to me turning on this device. It's the new IP address in my range. So you guys have to figure that out yourself. Again, we're doing this all headless, so this is how you do it headless. So minimize this. And here we're going to put in the IP address of the Raspberry Pi 192.168.0.84. In my case, your case, it's definitely not going to be the same. It will definitely be different. So again, that's why you do that scan to figure out what IP address the Raspberry Pi ends up when it's done configuring itself. So here you could also hit save on this. See if I can do it. Nope, I'm just going to go like this. I'm going to highlight the number and hit paste over here under save sessions and just hit save. And now it saves it so that every time you come in here, all you have to do is click that to connect to it, okay? So here we're going to hit open. It gives you a potential security breach, doesn't matter. Say yes to this, and there it is, the Raspberry Pi asking you to log in. So first thing we're going to do is put in the user name, which is PI. Password is Raspberry. Enter. And you're in. So the first thing you need to do, first thing, change the password. So PA PI-SSWD. Just type in PI-SSWD, and I'll put this all into a text file. Actually, I'll start that right now. It's a notepad here. There we go. And so the first thing you need to do once you get in here is PI-SSWD for password, okay? And always, always, always change the default password. So current password is Raspberry. That is the default password for the Raspberry Pi Raspbian image. So just put that in. And then put in your new one, whatever that's going to be. Make sure you remember it. Otherwise, you'll be reflashing the drive and doing it all over again. Or hacking the password some other way. There we go. Now the password has been updated, okay? First thing to do. Second thing you're going to do is type in sudo. And again, notice how we're into this on SSH. We didn't have to go into the actual device itself. That text file we put in there that said SSH without the TXT extension, that turned SSH on for us. So here we go. We're going to type in sudo apt-get and update. Okay, so we always do this first. And put that in here. I'm just going to copy and paste it. Now, another beauty of doing this through SSH. Let this go through. I'm going to go get another text document here with all this stuff on it, which makes my life easier and yours too. And I'll put this information again in the video description below. Okay, so again, we're going through this process. Pass WD first thing. So second thing we're going to do is sudo apt-get upgrade. So just as you see it here, again, I'll put it in the video description below. And just copy it, paste it in here, or type it in if you wish. And you want to do this every time you get, okay, here we're going to say yes, of course. You want to do this every time you put a new image on a Raspberry Pi. Do the update, do the upgrade, and then the last, the apt-get dist-upgrade, which is what we're going to do after this one's done. Okay, you get this thing about the TLS disable. Just make sure you're on here. Just hit Q here, and it'll continue on. So through the magic of video editing, I just saved you about 20 minutes. But this is a process. It takes a while for all these upgrades to go through, and it's gone through here. So the next thing we're going to do is the sudo apt-get dist-upgrade. Okay, this is a distribution upgrade. Again, I'm going through all the regular updates you should do every time you put in a new image. So just copy that or type it into your Raspberry Pi PuTTY window here, and you can see here that there's, it just went right through, no problem, fast, no big deal there. Last step, if you wish, is the sudo apt auto remove, and you do this in case that there's something missing. Or some of the files are not being used any longer. So just type in sudo space apt and then space auto remove, hit enter, and there's nothing to be done there either. But that's part of the process. And again, you see at top that I have rasap.com. That's where I'm getting the access point configuration and software from. And if you look at the browser, just go to raspap.com. And you can see these steps. Actually, mine are a little different than what they have, but you use what you want. And they recommend the reboot at that point. So it's just sudo and reboot. So you can copy it from here or from the information in the video description, up to you. And we'll just do that, let it reboot, and that'll kick us out of this window here, but let it do it. And there you go. See, it says, hey, remote side unexpectedly closed the network connection. Okay, we'll just wait a few minutes or a minute or two, and then we're going to connect back in. But in the meantime, what we're going to do is copy and paste this command right here. Okay, so I have it here in my text file. Again, you can get it from the web page if you wish, but up to you. I'll have it in the video description as well, and it's this wget command. So you can type it in, but again, copy it from the web page or from my video description below. So let's see if this is back up yet. So says PuTTY, says it's inactive. That means it's offline. So just right click it and use restart session. Up, and it says login, so it must be up. So put in Pi as a user again, and whatever password you changed it to, I'm going to put mine in here. Boom, we're in. At this point, what we're going to do is right click in the window, and you'll see that we get the wget command in there because we copied it. So enter it by hitting enter. And there's RasAp trying to install. And of course, we want to say yes. You notice here on the complete installation with these values, and it says Y in a lowercase, N in an uppercase. Well, what that means is that no is the default. So if you hit enter here, it would just kick you out of it would just say, okay, fine, bye, right? By hitting enter, the default would be no. So here you have to hit yes and enter or return or whatever your keyboard says. And then it'll go through this process. Let it go through. Then it asks you another question. Here again, do you want to continue? Notice that the capitalized letter is Y, the lowercase letter is N. So here you could hit enter and it would go yes. You just type in Y. I would put a capital Y. It doesn't matter. Just hit in Y. And you could have just hit enter and it would have gone with a yes as well. So when I see these, I don't know if they all program them the same way, but it seems to be the default answer is the capital letter. But again, I don't bother with that. I just put in the right letter and off we go. And I believe this is going to ask us one more question. We'll see here in a minute. And it's downloading this stuff off the web. So again, I'm assuming you've got this, well, obviously you have to have it connected to the internet. Another thing too to know is that wget command, if your RasAp ever gets messed up and some part of the configuration isn't working right, just run this wget command inside your CLI, your command line interface like we are right now, and it will reinstall it over top and reset it all. Okay, so again, I'll put all this stuff in the video description below for everybody. So wait for this to finish. And neat part is this: when this is done, when you see this window stop and it says, "Okay, I'm finished," the application or the access point will be running at that point. So I'll show you that in a second. Okay. So there we go. Let it go through, and I'll pick it up here. I'll let it scroll to the bottom, then I'll pick it up. Okay, here we have another question. Again, answer yes. I'm going to use a capital Y on this. Make sure you're in the window. Don't do what I just did here. Just go into the window, capital Y for yes, return, capital Y again, enable PHP OP cache, yes, return or enter. Here we are at the end of the actual configuration. It says, do you want to reboot now? The system needs to be rebooted as a final step. We'll just say yes. Notice the N is the capital letter there. So I'm just going to say yes, lowercase here. And of course, PuTTY says, hey, your side close the network. So, or the remote side close the network connection. So again, that's normal. At this point, we can just leave it alone. You can go back into it here if you want, but at this point, there's really no point. Actually, yeah, there is one more point. We're going back in one more time. So let's hit on the top bar again, choose a restart, restart the session or duplicate session. I'm going to hit restart, and it should come back up. Maybe a little early yet, but we'll see. Okay, so a little impatient there. Give it a little more. Let's try it again. Restart the session. Again, we're going headless, right? We don't know when the thing's done booting or what it's configuring. So restart the session. Try it again. There it is. So here we're going to put in Pi again. And whatever password you changed it to. If you didn't change it, then it's Raspberry. So there we are. And there's a key piece of information here when you log in. Notice what it says, Wi-Fi is disabled because the country is not set. Well, we need that to be on, right? So let's turn that on. by using Raspi Config. And you know, again, I'll put that, it's right here. But you can just type it in if you wish, you know, it's up to you. You could actually copy it from there. But anyways, you know, you have to sudo this. So sudo and then space raspi config. They don't tell you that there, but there it is. And this gives you the configuration for the Raspberry. You can change all sorts of things here, but the only thing that matters that we care about here is localization options, right? So why? Because you have to tell the Wi-Fi card where it's at in order for it to work correctly. Otherwise, it's just off. So here we go. And you can change the locale. You know, it's up to you whether you change all these things. It's actually a good idea to do so. You know, the time zone, good thing to change. Keyboard layout, sure. But here, the thing that matters the most is the Wi-Fi country. So here we're going to hit enter. And I'm going to hit the U on my keyboard, which gets me down to the United States. You choose whatever letters corresponding to the country you're in. So US, United States for me. Enter. Wi-Fi country set to US. Okay, so that's done. Now, you can go and set the rest of the localization settings if you wish, but you don't need to, right? Actually, you know, I'm not going to bother. So I'm going to hit OK. I'm going to hit finish here, and that should do it. If we do a reboot, so sudo reboot, and come back in here, and there's exactly what should happen when you do a reboot. Again, all command line, very powerful. And I'll show you how to tell whether you're back up or not. Here, watch this. I'm going to turn my Wi-Fi on. Yours is probably already on by default. But when it comes back on, it should show up here as a new connection, which will be, if I've got it written down here somewhere, it'll be, yeah, raspi-webgui. That'll be the SSID. So let's see what happens. Not quite there yet. Give it a second. Yes, I have a little bit of Wi-Fi pollution around where I live. There it is, raspi-webgui. Now, you know, you can go back into it here if you wish. Just do again, top bar, restart the session, and, you know, Pi as the username and whatever your password was that you put in here. Boom, you're in, right? Really no need to be here other than if you're going to do an upgrade or want to do something with the Raspberry in command line. But here, what we're going to do is go to our raspi-webgui next, which is the app we just created. So click on that. You can choose on connect automatically if you wish, and connect. And we'll see if it lets us in. Oh, yeah, see. Hold on a second. That, you know, I apologize because I've been connected to it before. It's going to go in there really easy. It's going to have the password in it already. So I just told it to forget it. Again, this is what should happen for you. It should ask you for a network security key, which is ChangeMe, as you can see down here, right? And default password is ChangeMe. So I'm going to go back to that and put in here change and me, and it's the capital letters are C and E, sorry, C and M here. So make sure you use those. You know, the case is important. Next. So this is the password. This is the SSID, and at this point, we are connected to it, right? And okay, great. So now what? Well, now we go to this IP address, 10.3.141.1. So copy that. I'm again in the video description, and just dump it in here into your address bar. And wow, look, something's asking us for a username and password. And again, I'll put that in this video description again, all this information. And the username is admin and the password is secret. Now we're going to change all that in a second. So admin and secret. So here we are at the home page of RasAp. As you can see, it's working. So basically at this point, we've got the RasAp Wi-Fi portal installed through CLI, command line interface, and SSH, all remote, all headless working right here. And this just gives you a rundown of what's going on. So let's go through the menus here. Wi-Fi client, this is I don't know. You can connect this to another Wi-Fi client, but once you do, it's no longer an app. It's just a Raspberry Pi connected to a Wi-Fi client, in which case, I don't know what you would do with it other than, maybe, what do you call it, SSH into it and do an update. I'm not sure why, but it's here. You can play with it, but I don't recommend it. So let's go to configure hotspot, because this is what we are creating here. And here you can change, well, don't change the wireless LAN because we want it to be wireless, but you can change the SSID. You can change the wireless access mode to G or N or B or A, whatever you wish. G is probably pretty safe. N is for N-type routers or Wi-Fi cards that can connect to that. Channel 1, you change it to whatever you wish. Let's go to security here. Again, my choice on this is WPA2 and WPA. That gives you the wider choice of security options, so you can choose that. TK-IP is perfectly fine as an encryption type. There's no real other option. You have CCNP. I don't know what that is, but just leave it on TK-IP. That's normal. The PSK is your password, your password key. So you can change that to whatever you wish. I'm going to change it here. What the heck? To something else. Save the settings. When you're done doing all the settings, always reboot the system, but I'll show you how to do that at this point. Just leave this alone for now. Go to security. We've done those settings. Oh, look at that. I forgot a piece there. Save the settings. There we go. Now we got it right. And again, when you reconnect through Wi-Fi, when you reboot, you're going to have to use this for password. The old one, ChangeMe, won't work. So let's go to advanced. You might want to enable logging if you wish to see a log file of what's going on in the router. Up to you. I'm going to hit that. What the heck? And it goes back to the hotspot settings saved. So that's basically it at this point. And there'll be a log showing up here after we reboot. Right now, it's not active yet. So as long as the settings are saved, we're good. Again, let's go to configure networking. Here it shows you the Ethernet settings. You can see that I'm on Ethernet 192.168.0.84. We know that because we go through it on SSH. And on the wireless LAN, you see that we have all these lovely numbers, but 10.3.141.1 is the primary IP address. That's how we log into it, okay? So here you can change these settings. You can play with them, put whatever numbers you wish in here. I'm not going to here. That's, you can set a static IP address for the ETH0. Probably a good idea, but again, I'll let you play with that. It's up to you. WLAN, same thing. Probably safest to leave these alone. And ETH0, maybe set it to 192.168, whatever number you wish to connect to every time. You can do that as well. But also know that you can SSH into this number every time because it'll always be the same once you're connected to the access point through Wi-Fi here. Okay, so this 10.3.141.1 number is only available when you're connected to raspi-webgui. The rest of the time, you'd have to use an IP address. So enough of that. Let's go to DHCP server. This shows you the settings for your DHCP server. It is what doles out IP addresses to clients. If you don't know what that is, just leave it alone. If you know what you're doing with this, you can change it. But it's by default set to give out 200 IP addresses, which is 200 clients, which is more than likely more than enough for most people. Actually, 205 clients. So, if you need more, just change these numbers to give you more. You can't go higher than 255, but you could go lower than 50. You could go all the way down to 2, okay? Again, so let's go to client list. That's me. Shows you that I'm connected. Configure auth. Definitely change the admin password, the old password for admin. You can change the username too. Here you could go root. The old password is secret. And put whatever password you wish in here. I'll put mine in here. Of course, I'm not going to tell you what that is, but Here we go. Save the settings. Now, the next time you click on something, it's going to ask you to log back in again. So let's change themes. There it is. So I changed it to root and the password to one of my favorites, and OK. And we're back in. And you can change the theme here, which changes the way this looks. See, there's Hacker News or Terminal. Up to you. I actually like the default. It's perfectly fine. So that's themes. Data usage here shows you what is going through your access point when. As far as data goes, it tells you. Pretty neat. This is cool. Then it has a daily and a monthly as well. Of course, I just installed this, so there's not a lot of data here. So that's cool. System, we've got the memory used and the CPU load. Language, of course, you can change if you wish. Console, very basic. I don't even know if you can do a. Let's see if you can do a sudo apt-get update. Let's see. Nah, it's very limited console, so you can do that through SSH anyway. So back to system, you've got the option to shut down and reboot. If you shut down, you're going to have to go to the Raspberry Pi, power it down, and power it back up again to reboot it. So always use the reboot button. So here I'm going to do that, and that'll kick us off. Well, it should anyway. There we go. And we'll see that happening over here as there. It just said disconnected, right? So it's trying to connect back up again, but it's not going to. If I hit refresh, you'll see that it's gone, right? But I hit reboot, so when the Wi-Fi connection goes back on, of course, we're going to have to change the password in to get into it again this time. I'll put it in, and when it comes back up, I'll show you that. And at that point, I've gone through everything you need to know on this access point. Play with it. It's not an issue. If you break it, just reinstall it. Just you do the SSH back into the actual Raspberry. Do the wget command back into it. Go all the way through it. It sets it all back to the default configuration, and then you can just come back in and set it the way you wish. Okay, so at this point, let's see if we're up yet. Give it another look. There it is. So let's connect. And it will ask me for a password this time because I used the default when I first set up this connection. So it'll say, that password's not working. So we'll see. It should anyway. Can't connect to this network. Okay. So let's try it one more time. Maybe it was a little early on that. And if it doesn't work, it's simple. Just right click it and choose connect. Come on. There we go. See, that's what's supposed to happen. So here, I'll just put my password I put in there. And it should verify and connect. Ta-da. Connected and secured. So, if I do back to this number, just delete that. There's the access point. So at this point, I'm connected to it through Wi-Fi. It's my only connection. And I should be able to browse the internet. So let's go to Google here. And ta-da, I do. Right? So the access point is working. We're on the internet. I can look at it, configure it any way I want. Let's go back here to data usage. Or actually, let's go to configure hotspot and log file output. No log file output in it. I see. Yeah. Okay. Let's try that one more time. Save the settings. There we go. Now, I'm going to try the stop. See what happens. I'm still connected. All right. Save the settings. Let's see if I can go here. Nothing. Okay. How about here? Yeah. See, that's what happens, right? And I'm knocked off. See why you don't want to hit that button. So at this point, we got to go back in, reboot the thing. which is, not hard to do. We'll do that. Connect to my network again. There we go. And, I have this session, but you can always use, if you don't have it, just, start Pi again, start PuTTY again. So let's log in as Pi, enter, and my password, or password that you put in. And here you can just, let me just double check. Yeah, see, that's why you don't want to hit that button, because once you hit it, it just disappears. So at this point, just reboot. So sudo reboot. Kind of glad that happened, because I'll show you how to deal with it. And once it reboots, the access point comes back up, and well, off we go. So when you change the settings, don't hit the stop button. Go to the system menu and use the reboot. So let's just minimize this out of the way. That should come back up. And I plugged back into my network with my LAN cable. That's how I managed to get back on there. I'm going to take that off at this point. Okay. And it should come back up here in a minute and connect on. So yeah, it's pretty cool. Awesome little program. Great application for your Raspberry Pi. This is the Pi 3 version Model B+. I love it. And waiting for this to come back here. There it is, and it's connecting automatically. And done. Connected, secured. Okay? So at this point, I can just go back here. And we're back in. Once again, let's go take a look at that hotspot. There we go. See, this time the log file is actually working. You can see it going through here. So that's neat. I just wanted to show you that. But again, don't hit that stop hotspot button. Go here to system after you've done this. After you save the setting, hit the reboot button on anything. So anytime you do a settings change or anything on this thing, just reboot, and that makes it work. Okay. If it doesn't take right away, just reboot and you'll be back up to fine. So that's it on my Raspberry Pi and RasAp with a headless connection. Hopefully that helped you, and hopefully that helps you learn a bit about SSH, terminaling into a Raspberry Pi, how to handle it, and how to set this up. That's it for my video on the headless install of the RasAp access point software in the Raspberry Pi 3 Model B+. Again, links to all the hardware in this video will be in the video description below. Comments, suggestions, or questions, put them in the comment section below. I look at them regularly and answer them regularly as well. And if you like this video and it helped you out in some way, do me a huge favor and click on the like button on the bottom right hand corner over here and give me a big thumbs up. That helps my channel, it helps my video, and I greatly appreciate it. As well, up here you'll see a picture of me. That is the subscription link. If you click on that picture, you'll be subscribed to my channel. Also, as part of that subscription process, you'll see a bell icon. If you click on the bell icon, you'll be notified every time I put up a new video, and then you can watch it at your own leisure. Once again, and like always, I want to thank you for watching and for your time.